Ethan and Clara Miller looked like the perfect couple, successful, admired, and deeply in love. But beneath their smiles lay a secret so dark that it would shatter their peaceful Canadian town, expose a chilling betrayal, and end with both husband and wife in prison for murder. Ethan and Clara Miller were the kind of couple everyone admired. In the peaceful town of Oakridge, Ontario, their names were always mentioned with warmth and respect. Ethan, an architect with sharp features and a calm personality, designed several modern homes in the area. His work was praised for its precision and beauty. Clara, on the other hand, ran a small bakery on Maple Street. Her pastries were famous throughout town, not only for their taste but for the kindness she showed every customer. Together, they seemed unstoppable, a perfect blend of ambition, love, and charm. Neighbors would often see them walking hand in hand every morning, sharing quiet laughter before heading to work. On weekends, they hosted barbecues, attended charity events, and volunteered at the local shelter. To everyone around them, they were the couple who had it all: success, happiness, and a life built on trust. No one ever questioned their smiles or wondered what might be hidden behind them. They were the picture of harmony in a world filled with chaos. But perfection, as people often forget, can be a dangerous disguise. Beneath their gentle gestures and polite conversations, cracks had already begun to form. Financial pressures were mounting on Ethan's business, and Clara had grown increasingly secretive about late-night deliveries and unexplained absences. The signs were there, but no one noticed. The community was too charmed by the Millers to see the tension beneath the surface. In the months to come, that picture-perfect image would shatter. The couple everyone trusted would become the center of one of the most shocking criminal cases in Canadian history, a story that would prove even the brightest smiles can hide the darkest secrets. The calm of Oakridge was broken one chilly November evening when Ethan's business partner, Daniel Ross, vanished without a trace. Daniel was well known in the community, a friendly and honest man who managed the finances of their architectural firm. He was last seen leaving the office after a tense meeting with Ethan. Witnesses recalled seeing him get into his black SUV and drive off toward the highway, but he never made it home. When his wife couldn't reach him the next morning, she assumed he had stayed overnight in the city. By the second day, his phone went straight to voicemail, and concern turned into panic. She reported him missing, triggering a police investigation that would soon lead back to Ethan and Clara Miller. Detectives began by interviewing Ethan, who appeared calm and cooperative. He told them Daniel had been under stress due to financial disagreements within the company. According to Ethan, Daniel stormed out of the office after an argument about unpaid invoices and had not returned. His tone was measured, his story consistent, but something about his composure unsettled investigators. They found it odd that he hadn't called Daniel once since his disappearance, despite being close friends and business partners for years. 3 days later, police discovered Daniel's SUV abandoned near a frozen lake outside town. The driver's seat was stained with blood, and the keys were still in the ignition. A shattered watch and a single glove were found inside. Yet there was no sign of Daniel himself. The evidence hinted at foul play, but with no body and no witnesses, investigators were left with more questions than answers. For the first time, the perfect image of Ethan and Clara began to flicker, and whispers of suspicion spread quietly through Oakridge. As investigators dug deeper into Daniel's disappearance, they began to uncover troubling details about Ethan's business. The architectural firm that once appeared successful was in serious financial trouble. Ethan had taken out large loans to fund new projects that never got completed. To keep the company afloat, he had begun using Daniel's name on loan applications without his partner's consent. When Daniel discovered the forged documents, he confronted Ethan, threatening to report him to the authorities and withdraw from the firm entirely. That confrontation happened just days before he vanished. The motive was now clear, but the evidence remained thin. Ethan continued to present himself as calm and cooperative. He told police that Daniel's anger over financial issues had likely driven him to disappear voluntarily. He even suggested that Daniel might have fled to avoid the scandal of their failing business. The explanation was convenient, and without a body, it was difficult to prove otherwise. Still, detectives were not convinced. They found it suspicious that Ethan never mentioned the illegal loans until they uncovered them on their own. Months passed with no new leads, and the investigation began to lose momentum. The community moved on, believing Daniel had either run away or met an unfortunate accident. Meanwhile, Ethan and Clara quietly rebuilt their public image. Clara's bakery grew in popularity, and she launched a local charity campaign in Daniel's memory, donating free pastries to community shelters. Her warmth and generosity seemed to heal the town's unease. No one suspected that her kindness masked something far darker. Behind the bakery's cheerful facade, the Millers were hiding a secret that, if discovered, would destroy the perfect life they had so carefully constructed. The truth, for now, remained buried, along with Daniel Ross. Almost a year had passed since Daniel Ross vanished, and his case had quietly faded from headlines. The police had no body, no witnesses, and no solid proof linking Ethan or Clara to his disappearance. Life in Oakridge returned to normal. Clara's bakery was thriving, and Ethan had started working independently, designing homes for private clients. To everyone around them, the Millers had moved on, living peacefully and successfully once again. But then, one quiet morning, everything changed. Detective Laura Keene received an anonymous email with the subject line, "You're looking in the wrong place." Inside was a short message claiming that Clara Miller knew the truth about Daniel Ross. Attached to the email was a GPS coordinate deep in the forest 2 hours north of Oakridge. The sender's identity was hidden, and the message offered no explanation, only that it was time to look beneath the surface. At first, investigators thought it was another prank, but the coordinates pointed to an isolated area rarely visited by anyone, and curiosity led them to check. When officers arrived at the location, they discovered a small clearing surrounded by pines. After hours of digging, they uncovered something horrifying: a human body wrapped in a plastic construction tarp, buried less than 3 feet underground. The body was decomposed but still identifiable through dental records. It was Daniel Ross. Alongside the tarp, police found a torn piece of cloth from a work uniform linked to Ethan's construction company. The discovery reignited the case and shattered the illusion of innocence that had shielded the Millers. Detectives now believed the couple's perfect life had been nothing more than a disguise, and the quiet bakery on Maple Street hid far more than sweet pastries. It hid a secret grave of guilt and betrayal. After the discovery of Daniel Ross's body, investigators shifted their focus to uncovering how deeply Ethan and Clara were involved. The first step was tracing the money. Forensic accountants went through every bank statement, transaction, and loan connected to the Millers. What they found was both revealing and disturbing. Just 48 hours after Daniel's disappearance, a large transfer of $80,000 appeared in Clara Miller's personal account. The transfer came directly from one of Ethan's undisclosed business accounts, one that Daniel had no knowledge of. When questioned, Clara claimed the money was for bakery equipment and renovations. She insisted Ethan had loaned her the amount to expand her business. But investigators quickly learned that there were no invoices, receipts, or orders to support her claim. No new ovens were purchased, and no construction had taken place. The explanation was a lie. Instead, the funds had been quietly moved again a week later into a joint savings account under both Ethan's and Clara's names. The timing and secrecy of the transfers painted a clear picture of financial coordination that aligned with the timeline of Daniel's death. Further digging revealed additional inconsistencies. Clara had made several cash deposits that matched withdrawals from Ethan's firm, suggesting she was helping to hide money linked to their illegal dealings. To the outside world, she was a hardworking baker supporting her husband. But behind the scenes, she appeared to be managing the financial cover-up of a murder. Investigators began to see Clara not as a bystander, but as an active participant. Her calm, charitable image had shielded her from suspicion for months. Now, every transaction, every deposit, and every false receipt hinted at something far more chilling. She wasn't protecting Ethan. She was protecting herself. With the financial evidence stacking up, investigators turned their attention to Clara's bakery, the heart of her public life and reputation. It was the place where she spent most of her time, where the town gathered every morning for coffee and pastries, and where no one could imagine anything sinister taking place. But detectives knew that criminals often hid evidence where no one would think to look. Acting on a search warrant, they entered the bakery late one evening after closing hours. Upstairs, everything appeared normal. The counters were spotless, the ovens clean, and the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and bread. But in the basement, the atmosphere changed. It was cold and damp, with walls lined in metal shelving and old storage boxes. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary supply area, until they found a large industrial freezer tucked in the corner. It was unplugged, recently scrubbed, and smelled strongly of bleach. Inside were small traces of dark stains that had soaked into the rubber lining. Forensic testing later confirmed what investigators feared most. The stains contained human tissue and blood matching Daniel Ross's DNA. The discovery was devastating. It meant that Daniel's body had been stored in the bakery before being moved to the forest. Forensic teams determined that the freezer had been cleaned within a day of his disappearance. Detectives also found tire marks behind the bakery, matching the van Clara used for deliveries. The evidence transformed the direction of the case. The bakery that had symbolized kindness and comfort was now a crime scene. Behind the smiles, behind every loaf of bread and pastry, lay the grim truth of what had happened to Daniel Ross. The illusion of innocence had finally begun to crumble. While the physical evidence from the bakery was shocking, investigators still needed undeniable proof linking both Ethan and Clara to Daniel's death. They turned to the couple's digital records, phones, laptops, and cloud storage. What they found revealed a hidden world of deception, fear, and premeditation. Forensic experts managed to recover deleted text messages between Ethan and Clara that dated back to the week before Daniel's disappearance. The messages painted a disturbing picture of two people planning something far darker than a financial cover-up. Ethan had texted Clara about a meeting he was arranging with Daniel to settle things once and for all. Clara's response was chilling in its simplicity. She told him to make sure it doesn't lead back to us. Over the next few days, the messages became more urgent, discussing timing, location, and what to do afterward. One message from Ethan read, "He's coming by the house after work. I'll handle it." The following morning, Clara sent a final message that investigators would never forget. "It's done. Cleaned up." These messages left little doubt that both had planned and executed the crime together. The digital evidence tied directly with the timeline of Daniel's disappearance, the money transfers, and the forensic findings in the bakery. Investigators also found that Clara had searched online for industrial cleaning products and how to remove DNA from surfaces just days after Daniel vanished. The messages erased any illusion that Clara was an innocent bystander. They showed intent, coordination, and awareness of every step. With this new evidence, prosecutors finally had the missing piece, the proof that the Millers' perfect life had been built not on love and trust, but on lies, greed, and the deliberate destruction of a man who had trusted them both. On a cold winter morning, the quiet neighborhood of Oakridge awoke to flashing police lights. Several patrol cars and unmarked vehicles surrounded the Miller residence. Officers moved swiftly, their boots crunching on the frost-covered driveway as they approached the front door. Ethan was in his workshop at the back of the house, reviewing architectural sketches, while Clara was in the kitchen preparing trays of pastries for her bakery's morning delivery. Neither expected that their carefully built facade was about to collapse. When police entered the home, Ethan appeared stunned but did not resist. Clara froze, her hands trembling as officers read the charges: manslaughter, fraud, and obstruction of justice. The couple was escorted out in handcuffs as neighbors gathered outside, whispering in disbelief. Only days earlier, they had seen the Millers smiling at a charity event, donating baked goods, and laughing with children. Now, those same faces were pale and expressionless, their eyes fixed on the ground. News spread across town within hours. The once admired couple had been exposed as suspects in one of the most shocking crimes in local history. Television crews arrived, and reporters stood outside the bakery, describing how a place once filled with warmth had turned into a crime scene. Customers who had praised Clara's kindness now refused to enter her shop. As Ethan and Clara were taken to the police station, the weight of their lies finally caught up with them. For the first time, they were separated, placed in different interrogation rooms. Each was given the same chance to tell the truth, but both stayed silent, hoping somehow to protect themselves or each other. The silence that once made them seem calm and composed now echoed like guilt. The perfect couple had finally been unmasked. The courtroom in downtown Toronto was packed on the morning of the trial. Reporters, curious citizens, and even former neighbors filled every seat, eager to witness the downfall of the couple once seen as the pride of Oakridge. The air was tense, heavy with anticipation. Ethan sat rigidly at the defense table, his eyes fixed on the floor, while Clara appeared cold and expressionless beside him. They no longer looked like the smiling pair who once charmed their town. They looked hollow, distant, and broken. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence that painted a chilling story. They showed the bank transfers, the forensic reports from the bakery freezer, and the recovered text messages detailing the plan to eliminate Daniel Ross. Every piece fit together seamlessly. The jury listened as prosecutors described how Ethan struck Daniel during an argument in their office, fatally injuring him, and how Clara later helped move and hide the body in her bakery's freezer before the couple buried him in the forest. Clara's defense argued she had acted out of fear, manipulated by her husband, and unaware of the full extent of his crimes. Ethan, in turn, tried to take full responsibility, claiming he alone was guilty. But the digital messages between them proved cooperation, not coercion. The cold precision in their planning made it clear they had worked together. Throughout the testimonies, Clara showed almost no reaction, while Ethan occasionally wiped away tears. After weeks of evidence and witness statements, the jury reached its verdict: guilty of manslaughter, obstruction of justice, and financial fraud. The courtroom fell silent as the judge prepared to deliver the sentence that would forever end the Millers' illusion of perfection. The truth had finally come to light, and there was no escape left. When the verdict was read, a heavy silence filled the courtroom. Ethan and Clara Miller were sentenced to 9.5 years in prison each for manslaughter, obstruction of justice, and financial fraud. The judge described their actions as cold, calculated, and driven by greed, emphasizing how they had betrayed not only their victim, but an entire community that once trusted them. As the gavel struck, Clara's face remained blank, while Ethan closed his eyes, as if the weight of every lie had finally caught up to him. News of their sentencing spread quickly across Canada. The once admired couple became symbols of deception, proof that evil can exist behind even the kindest faces. The bakery on Maple Street was shut down permanently, its windows boarded and its sign removed. Ethan's architectural firm was dissolved, and all their assets were sold to repay their debts. Their home, once filled with light and laughter, sat abandoned, its garden overgrown, a haunting reminder of what they lost. In prison, the couple was kept in separate facilities. They rarely communicated after their sentencing. Clara spent her days in silence, working in the prison kitchen, while Ethan took up carpentry in an effort to rebuild his sense of purpose. Letters between them grew fewer with time until they stopped entirely. Outside, Oakridge slowly healed, though the memory of the Millers never truly faded. People still whispered their names when passing the old bakery, remembering how perfection can disguise darkness. The story of Ethan and Clara Miller became a cautionary tale, a reminder that behind even the sweetest smiles, there can exist secrets powerful enough to destroy everything. Their 9.5 years behind bars could never equal the life they had taken or the trust they had broken forever.